Good morning, my time. This is not legal advice. Like, subscribe, share. Please provide me any feedback, by the way. I'm happy to hear and consider that. I'm also thinking of changing my name to Bob. So please comment below whether you like Bob better than Richard or Borghand. I would appreciate that. Um, because with FSD going to be a very important element of Tesla in the future, Nhtsa, the National Highway Traffic Safety Organization, and we'll call it Nhtsa for short, will be very important in terms of Tesla's future because they will probably be making decisions with regard to FSD and other safety issues. So, with that in mind, and because we hear about Nhtsa all the time, I wanted to put them and their perspective in context and kind of present my view as to where they stand. So Nhtsa is obviously part of the Department of Transportation, so it's part of the federal government. As such, unfortunately, for anyone at Nhtsa to have responsibility or liability, civil liability for say, as it is a federal agency, they'd have to be acting outside the scope and way outside the scope of their regulatory powers. So, in part, they're immune even if they are incompetent in performing their duties, as long as it's not basically criminal misconduct. Um, Nhtsa, obviously, to Tesla fans or investors or owners, has been an unreasonable pain in the butt for quite some time. But Nhtsa is responsible for enforcing federal safety standards, which arose out of a 1967 congressional act. It also licenses manufacturers and importers, allows or blocks imports of vehicles and parts, and most importantly, and maybe most symbolic, it develops the crash test dummies. And I've heard some people say that they use old retired staff as the dummies. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Nhtsa was formed in 1970, has a budget of about $1 billion. It was implemented at a time that there was really only three legacy auto makers at the time: Ford, GM, Chrysler, I believe, and safety numbers were very poor. So Nhtsa was brought in. I think they were established specifically in 1970, and they were brought in to deal with all the safety issues. And there was concern because there was only three legacy auto makers that they wouldn't implement safety concerns. So that's why Nhtsa was brought into effect. And the first major accomplishment, and maybe only or most significant accomplishment to date, was the mandating of seatbelts. So that was done in the early part of Nhtsa's establishment. It did certainly reduce injuries and deaths, but most people believe that Nhtsa peaked at that point in time, and whatever influence they may have exerted on safety occurred in the early years where safety was abysmal. The mission statement, ironically, of Nhtsa is to save lives, prevent injuries, and reduce vehicle related crashes. Some, including myself, might wonder how targeting Tesla with its superior safety numbers promotes any of those purposes. Some wonder whether there is illegal targeting of Tesla by Nhtsa and the federal government. There certainly is a question of competence, actually, confidence and competence at Nhtsa. Along those lines, the Inspector General's office of the Department of Transportation, so in essence, the office that evaluates the other conduct of the agency itself, audited Nhtsa in 2011, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2021. And to summarize, it was determined that the federal agency likely immune from civil liability, unfortunately, was for all intents and purposes incompetent, careless, and ineffectual, amongst other substantial defects claimed by the evaluator of their performance. And this was up and through 2021. And Nhtsa obviously has interacted with Tesla during that time. So we have accusations of illegal targeting of Tesla, along with the government's own findings that the agency that is targeting Tesla has ceased to serve a valuable function. And again, there was data that initially Nhtsa had a positive impact with seatbelts and reduced deaths and injuries. But since about 1984, they really have not served that mission statement. As such, the next time that Nhtsa issues a pronouncement or offers a conclusion, ponder the fact that the government asserts that Nhtsa really doesn't understand what it's doing. And as a result, isn't it a time to abolish Nhtsa with an entity that can appropriately administer and supervise safety of vehicles without political influence or with less political influence? Whatever it is, whoever that party is that will be administering safety of vehicles, they certainly should not be immune from civil liability, because that is a risk that often keeps wrongdoers in check. So that's my brief view of Nhtsa. As cases and issues arise, I will continue to comment on them, but I kind of wanted to put how they were created and where they were created and the context of their existence, and how the fact that the government doesn't evaluate them very highly themselves, to put that in context so that you will evaluate any future pronouncements by them accordingly. Have a good day. Be well.